The Springfield, Illinois race riot happened on this day in history, 1908. After a black man was accused of sexually assaulting a white woman, an angry mob gathered at the city jail and demanded that the police hand him over, as well as a black suspect from out of town who was accused of killing a white railroad engineer a month earlier. Apparently, the police had secretly taken the two prisoners out the back door into a waiting car provided by a wealthy white resident, and they were taken out of town to safety. When the crowd realized this, they began rioting. And the first thing they did was destroy a restaurant owned by the man who provided the car, and then they set the car on fire, which had returned and was parked out front. While most of the 5,000 white Springfield residents gathered and were spectators, the rioters destroyed a small black business district downtown and then a nearby poor black neighborhood, which was mostly empty since the residents had fled upon news of the rioters. One black man who stayed behind to protect his home, Scott Burton, was lynched. The next night, rioters regrouped downtown and went to the state arsenal where several hundred black residents had taken refuge, but the rioters were driven off by state troopers. The crowd then marched to a mostly white middle-class neighborhood and lynched an elderly wealthy black resident. At this point, enough troops had arrived in the capital to prevent further mass attacks. Still, there were several attacks against black residents over the next month, where several more black homes were damaged, and a few black people caught alone on the streets were beaten by small groups of white people. It's worth noting that the longer the violence lasted, the more it became about targeting successful black residents, shop owners, barbers, government workers, real estate dealers. While the local newspaper tried to frame the rioters as having attacked blacks who were criminals, the truth was that this was another situation where white residents were angry at seeing black residents living better than they were. In total, 2 blacks and 4 whites died, along with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of property destroyed, more than 40 black families displaced after their homes were burned, and there were dozens injured, both black and white. Remember, Springfield was once Abraham Lincoln's home, and it was reported that rioters were saying things like, "Lincoln freed you, now we'll show you where you belong." And while segregation was still pretty normal in Springfield, elevated racial animosity continued after the rioting. Whites who employed blacks or had black customers received threatening letters saying their homes and businesses would be burned if they didn't cut ties with black residents. Even the mayor got letters threatening violence if he refused to fire the handful of black policemen and firemen. Eventually, the city returned to normal, and the many hundreds of black people who had fled to the countryside and neighboring towns returned and rebuilt their lives. The whites arrested for rioting went to trial, but the all-white juries refused to convict all but one of them, who only served 30 days in jail. Of the 2 black men that were initially sought by the mob, the one accused of murder was found guilty and hanged, but the one accused of rape was freed after his accuser confessed to having lied to cover up an affair with a white man. One good thing did actually come out of this the following year, when a meeting made up of white and black reformers, still outraged over what had occurred, laid the foundation for what eventually became the NAACP. And like the other stories I've told about race riots and race massacres throughout U.S. history, this was yet another one that I did not learn in school.